Yes, a very warm evening, and thank you so much for joining Medi. This is GTN TV, and my name is Mumbi Mavuti. Now, today we are going to be talking about autism. Mostly, we want to think that it can't be defined as this one person and this very specific symptoms and signs, but not today. We are going to unlearn that because I have specialists with us here. And did you know that it is more common than you thought? Because according to the World Health Organization, 1 out of every 100 children could be suffering from autism. And today we are going to be learning more about the condition, creating awareness so that our community is able to enhance the quality of life for people living with autism, and also for those that are taking care of those of us with autism. So joining me is Alice, and on my right hand is Mr. Kenneth. I'm going to give them each a moment to introduce themselves, and let's see why they are participating in this conversation. So I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Mumbi, for this opportunity. As you have already said, my name is Kenneth Kabene, working with a government agency called the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. National Council for Persons with Disabilities is an agency that was created through the Disability Act of 2003. Basically, to champion for the rights of persons with disabilities. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm glad to be here, to be with you here today, to talk more about autism and other developmental disabilities. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. My name is Alice Mundia, the chairperson of Different Talented Society of Kenya, mm-hmm. an organization or a group that brings together autistic persons and their caregivers. I am also a mother to a young man who is now 20 years, who is autistic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So mostly we just shorten it to autism, but I understand it is a spectrum of disorders. Maybe Mr. Kenneth, you could help us break down what is autism? Why are we saying that it is a spectrum?
I think we also bring on board the other disabilities. Mm-hmm. I would say autism is a behavioral disability. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It's not something that you can see physically. Just like when you say about, let's say, clients who suffer from physical disability, say amputation, mm-hmm. polio, mm-hmm. paraplegia, and such. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So with autism, mm-hmm. The only way you can detect it is through the behavior. Mm-hmm. That's why we say of the behavioral disabilities. Mm-hmm. Also on board, when you also talk of other developmental disabilities, mm-hmm. we are talking of Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. I know you have seen those kids who have that round face with the eyes that are closed. Mm-hmm. You're also talking about hydrocephalus, mm-hmm. Spina bifida, cerebral palsy. There are quite a number of them. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So, why a spectrum? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Because it ranges from one person to another. Mm-hmm. Why you say autism it's a spectrum? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Because one kid may be suffering from autism, mm-hmm. but the support that kid requires is totally different for another person. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. And maybe Madam Alice, you could share with us what are some of the causes or attributing factors, because there isn't quite an exact cause for autism, but what are some of the contributing factors to one suffering from autism?
I would say that autism is a very complex disorder. Mm-hmm. And this is a disorder that happens or is first noticeable during the first 36 months of age. And from the research that has been done, even by the Center for Diseases Control and WHO, they've not been really able to identify exactly what is causing autism. There are some research studies that link it to a bit of genetics, a bit of what is happening within the environment. But then they've not been able to really tell us this is the exact causant of autism. But from what we see, according to the statistics currently, the current statistics from the CDC is that 1 in every 36 children has autism. And as you said about WHO. But then we can see there's an increasing rate of persons being diagnosed with autism, but then the causes have not been identified. Yes.
Thank you so much. And mostly this is, we say that it is behavioral. How soon can one notice the behaviors and maybe be able to detect that my child could be having autism?
I would say that within the first, when the child is almost like, say, within the first 1 year of the child being born, you can be able to tell. There's some telltale signs you can tell, like when the child does not give you eye contact, when the child probably does not give the mother eye contact even when they are breastfeeding. You can be able to tell the telltale signs, but then before 36 months of age, it becomes very, very difficult to tell that a child is autistic. What you will find is the child is probably not mimicking what other children are doing. You'll find that probably the child is struggling with difficulties in communication. You find that the child has like delayed form of milestones, and especially delayed milestones when it comes to issues of communication. You can tell in the early years that a child has a bit of repetitive behavior or wants sameness in terms of wanting routine. You can find a child does not want to play with others. They want to kind of like sit on exclusion, be excluded from play. You can see children play in a unique way with toys that may not necessarily be the way certain toys, the way you play with certain toys. You can see there's an odd way that this child plays with toys. You can tell the telltale signs, but many caregivers will tell you that they're able to identify when the child gets to school, because they think that this child is going to achieve these certain milestones. But when the child gets into school, you find that even after interacting with other children within the school setting, they're still struggling with difficulties in communication. They're still struggling with sameness and repetition. They have like some self-stimulatory behavior, certain odd behavior that they will do, like flapping their hands, You can find that other than the social interaction, the issues around their behavior, and the issues around communication, you will find also probably the child is struggling also with reading and writing in the classroom setting, because they are not able probably to concentrate and sit in one space. We find some of the children may also have like hyperactivity in the classroom setting. That is when the mother or the father, the primary caregiver, will identify that really there's a problem, and then probably seek the services of a medic, take the child to hospital for assessment. But the telltale signs in the very early years are not as very, very noticeable as when the child goes into the school setting. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for that. Mr. Kenneth, when we talk about inclusivity, should these people living with autism be included when we talk about people living with disabilities? And do you think that enough awareness has been created so that could be a mommy sitting back at home with a child that is autistic, and they do not even know that these signs and symptoms that she has talked about that I'm noticing in my child could be because my child is autistic and they're not aware?
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe let me start with the last question on the level of awareness. But I would say awareness is one of the mandates of the council. I would say that we have done well on the part of awareness, but it's work in progress. Like today, when we are celebrating the Autism Awareness Day in partnership with the different Society of Kenya, it's a part of creating this awareness. We want parents now to realize, even those that are at home, as Madam Maris has rightly put it, the mother or the primary caregiver, the first person to diagnose that the kid has this disability. Then you take a step forward to visit the health facility that is near him or her. So that is the starting point. Then we also need now to create awareness to the larger community and the family members about this type of disability, because they are out of misconceptions when it comes to these behavioral disabilities. If you have been observant on how the they behave, you find most of them are quite hyperactive. You know, it's not normal on the other kids. Yeah, you know, delayed speech. These are some of the things that the community need to be educated about. When you meet that child there in the village who is hyperactive, you know, most of them will say maybe it's discipline issues or such, which is not the case. So we continue day by day creating this awareness. Of course, we are working hand in hand with other groups, partners. We encourage the parents to join groups, one for psychosocial support and also for awareness creation. Because when they are in a group, it's better to educate the members of the community about the disabilities. Now, let me go to issues of inclusion. True to it, for quite some time, persons with disability have been left out in various aspects of our society, including decision making. And that's why you are working closely with caregivers. Remember, the category we are talking about, sometimes they are not able to make the decisions. And that's why we are bringing the caregivers on board. Because these mothers and dads are now able to advocate for the rights of these kids, you know, for resource allocation from the basic level, from the village level location. We want to know how many special units are there. You know, there are kids who may not be able to go through a normal curriculum, the one you are used to for PP1, PP2. There are those that are targeted differently. They will do some paid work and such. So we need more resources to be allocated to these communities, and also early intervention is key. You know, we also need the medics for rehabilitation purposes. You need the occupational therapist, the physiotherapist. So when we talk of resources and including them in the planning and also implementation of various projects, it will help us in future to have them also actively in the development of our country. Yes.
Thank you so much. Madam Alice, you mentioned to us that you are mom to a 20-year-old autistic son, and I would like for you to share with us, how early did you realize that your child was autistic? How was the journey been? Talk to somebody back at home that feels like it's a hard job, or okay, it could be a hard job, but it is doable. Encourage someone. Share with us your story.
I would say that my son was diagnosed when he was about 3.5 years. And as I'd said earlier, when you're able to tell the telltale signs of delayed milestones, in many cases you think that this child is going to achieve these milestones. People in the society will tell you, take the child to school, and once they're in school, they get to interact better with others, they're going to pick on speech. But then when they go to school, you find that your son is not picking on speech. In fact, when my son was about 3.5 years, he was non-speaking. He was completely non-speaking. So I would say in the early years, I think it's harder because as a parent, you are also learning to navigate. You're learning to understand the condition of your son. Even when the doctor tells you this is a neurodevelopmental disability, they tell you this is going to be a lifelong disability. But then nobody exactly tells you what interventions you will need at that point in time. So you start navigating in a space where you are learning every day. You kind of like acquiring knowledge and at the same time being the support person of your own child and being their mother and taking care of them. So navigating the early years is very, very hard. And I would say when my son was diagnosed, I think what became easier on me is volunteering. I found myself volunteering in an organization back then that had been formed by professionals. And so I got to learn a lot from the professionals along the journey. During that period of time, my son would be very, very hyper. He would struggle with difficulties in communication. He would struggle with sameness and routine, and in the early years would not understand why probably he would throw tantrums when breakfast was not served at the right time, was not served at 8 or at 7 every morning. So, but as he grew older, kind of like we build on knowledge. We took him for occupational therapy in the early years. We took him for speech therapy in the early years, and of course embarked on the journey of dietary intervention. Today, I would say that probably not all autistic persons maybe may struggle with food sensitivities. But I would find that my son was really struggling with food sensitivities in the areas, and we had to also adjust his diet plan, and it had to include the whole family. Like the adjustments we would make for my son would be adjustments for everyone. And we started exploring on what diets would work for him. I remember in the early years would do like rice pancakes, you know, the way you buy chia seeds, you soak them overnight, you try to make pancakes. Probably my son was a picky eater back then. And we navigated quite a lot. The school system was also kind of like very, very difficult because we found ourselves moving him from one school to another until he settled. Like when he was about 8 or 9, that's when he settled in his new school. And that is where he stayed until he was about 17 or 18 there. I would also say that he struggled a lot with sensitivities, struggled also with a bit of difficulties in sensory processing. And so we had to do a lot of occupational therapy. We also had to do a lot of interventions at home, and especially interventions relating to play. Like if you came to my house in the areas, my house would have a trampoline in the sitting room, a gym ball there, some I would make artificial play there for him. And so he had his play corner, you know. And there were many things that we had, of course, to adjust, create space for him so that he can move up and about because he was very hyper. Today, if you meet my son, probably you would not be able to tell he's autistic by just because the issue is about autism is it's an invisible disability. Of course, you cannot tell. So if he's not hyper, then you would probably not tell he's autistic. I've seen also the difficulties that come with transition, because transitioning from one point to another, when his peers were sitting for KCPE, it became very difficult for him to sit for KCPE. When his peers were transiting to get even into college, it became very difficult for my son. But then through one of our programs at Differently Talented Society of Kenya, and through recognition of prior learning, he was able to get into the National Industrial Training Authority and train within his area of interest in food and beverage. Right now, in his 20s, we are struggling, asking ourselves, which is this school that would probably employ him 3 days a week, because he may not be able to do like an 8-hour, 40-hour week, just doing one thing, which is this school or institution that can take him and employ him 3 days a week, and he works in an industrial kitchen, a kitchen that has a lot of flow, so that because he cannot work in a kitchen that is also not very busy in terms of food preparation, because he's very, very good in food preparation. He's good in food preparation, but then he needs to be really engaged. We also discovered that he loved animals a lot. He needed to keep retreating to the village just to re-energize and come back to the city. We also realized that we needed to teach him activities of daily living. We needed to prepare for independent living, as in just teaching him certain skills that will allow him to transit. But I would say that at every stage of transition, there are still more difficulties, because even now getting into gainful employment now becomes also a challenge, even with having acquired the requisite skills that he has acquired, because probably he does not have a high school certificate, just like his peers. So transitioning into work also becomes a key challenge. And I would say the difficulties that I have experienced are the difficulties any other parent will experience. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. So you're going to be taking a quick short break here at Medicamp, and when we come back, we're going to be talking more about interventions. What can we do to make sure that our systems accommodate these people, and then what do we do about the well-being of the caregivers? So stay tuned, don't go away.
RBG Engineering Limited is an engineering company that specializes in fabrication and forming projects involving stainless steel, mild steel, and aluminum, and is committed to quality, reliability, and cutting-edge technology. Our services include metal folding, metal cutting, architectural steelwork, on-site services, while ensuring we collaborate with our clients from the initial idea stage, developing the concepts and translating translating them into computer-aided designs. For more information, contact 0738 123 123 or visit our offices in Kingongo, opposite Shell Petrol Station along the Nyeri Nyahururu Highway. RBG Engineering Limited, building the future.
Igwa rwimbo guthakara ungenda kwigwatira rwimbo mukaire rwa Chris Mwangi rutuketa skiza tune thimo-ine yaku ni undu muhuthu. SMS ritwa skiza 6939672 utume kuri 811 na ritwa skiza 6939672 utume kuri 811 wigwatira rwimbo mukaire rwa Chris Mwangi thimo-ine yaku rutuke rwa kirathimo muturire-ine waku wa family yaku ona arata aku. Kege ya kero ni naruothe mutumiana tuyatari mwana agikaira mwathani wo yake muri.
Wena itangatho ngene rikinyire ya Kenya na njira ya mwanya, itangatho ria biacara, wendia wa migunda, magongona ngurani ta kumenyithia muingi motungata maria kambuni yaku iraheana kana kumenyithia muingi mathomo maria thukuru waku uraheana, imenyithia cia ikua hamwe na motungata mangi. Uka wonjorithie na ithuĩ na thogora mubacĩrĩre, twarĩre kũgerera thimũ namba 0742606195 kana email nĩyo sales@gtntv.co.ke kana ũtũcĩre wabici-inĩ citũ GCTC Complex, former Othaya Teachers College, GTN TV, muciĩ wa iheo na taranda.
Yes, thank you so much for staying tuned in and welcome back to Medi Camp. We are here at Nyamachaki Primary School in Nyeri Town and we are enhancing awareness on autism. So we have been talking about the causes, how to tell that your child could be having autism and a lot more. Right now we want to talk about someone as a child, they have been discovered, they have been diagnosed with autism, and now they grow to being a grown-up with autism. There are going to be some level of struggles. What are some of the challenges, Mr. Kenneth, that these people go through?
Well, thank you very much. There are quite a number of challenges that these people go through. Yeah? One, employability. You know, depending on the range of the spectrum, and the training, some clients with autism and other developmental disabilities may be dependent on their caregivers for a lifelong period. So that is one, because now it may also contribute to that household losing an income, because you are talking of a mother who is bringing up a child who is autistic. That mother will not be able to go and get a source of income, because he will be purely engaged taking care of this autistic child or child with other developmental disabilities. So economic wise, there is a big growth. That's a big challenge. Then also among another big challenge that they are facing is the societal attitudes and discrimination that comes up with this disability. You know, there are so many cultural and also beliefs on disabilities. People talk of maybe it's curses, maybe you know, witchcraft and such. These are some of the challenges, and it will demoralize these adults because there is some form of discrimination in the society. Another one is maybe acceptance. it's also a big issue. And also resources that are being put at their disposal when it comes to training. How many schools do you have that are able, vocational institutions that are able to handle young adults with autism? Yeah, how many professionals, let's say of those in the rehabilitation care, are trained in our hospitals to handle these clients? So yes, those are some of the challenges. And also remember there are those that also require other assistive like medication. Yeah, so these are some of the cost implications that come with this disability.
Thank you so much for that. So you've talked of some of the myths that it could be witchcraft, it could be that there are curses and such. So Madam Alice, we also hear people saying that immunization for children could increase one's chances of suffering from autism. Is that actually true?
I would say that just as Kabene has said, my colleague Kabene from National Council for Persons with Disabilities has said, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions. And one of them being that sometimes the persons in society propagate the myth that immunization could be a causant of autism. But then we know that a lot of research has been put into trying to discover what is the cause of autism. And we know that from the research studies that have been done that immunization is a myth, that immunization does not cause autism. And we find that many children during their early years benefit from immunization. So if you tell people that they will deny the children an opportunity to get immunized, it means that they will then get other secondary diseases or secondary infections that will also interfere with their own health and wellness. So there's quite a lot of misconceptions, and of course even as a movement also, and as an organization like Differently Talented Society of Kenya, we create awareness so that we change the narrative and break the barriers of the myths and narratives that are existing within society and the barriers that autistic persons experience within the community, to ensure that they are accepted, and at the same time also the community also understands and has the right information regarding autism, so that they also don't create their own stories. Yes.
Thank you so much. The theme of this event that we've had here today is promoting the psychosocial well-being of autistic persons and their primary caregivers for enhanced quality of life. But just how do we do that? What do we do to improve the quality of their lives for the autistic people and their caregivers?
We say that stigma begins within the house unit. It begins at home. So meaning that if you're going to break the barriers that autistic persons will experience in society, or the barriers of stigma, it means it begins within the house unit. It begins at home. And we fight because of the existing, as we had said earlier, the existing myths and misconceptions, and of course the stigma that caregivers face. We find many of them struggle a lot with difficulties with psychosocial wellness, and they're keeping to themselves. They do not understand what is happening to their child, and the society is also not accommodative, and the services that they're looking for are not available, or they're very expensive. So we find many caregivers retreat and find themselves also struggling with secondary issues around wellness, around their own psychosocial wellness. Autistic persons, by virtue of their diagnosis and the difficulties they experience, probably in cognition, the difficulties they experience in being understood within the community, especially because of having those behavior issues within the community, when they are not accepted, and when they find that they are being thrown out of school or stigmatized within the places where they access services, many of them in young adulthood, we recognize that they then transit from just having autism. You can imagine in adulthood, you are 20 or 25 and you have to sit idly, depending on your own mother to take care of you. You have no income generating activity. Opening a bank account is also a challenge. In fact, I've seen many young adults going even to the banking sector, and sometimes they are denied an opportunity to open a bank account I know quite a number also have been able to open bank accounts. It also depends on the level of disability. But then they struggle a lot with psychosocial issues. They're struggling with being able to make friends, entering into relationships. Their colleagues are moving and getting married. So we find many of them struggling with a lot of psychosocial issues. And I would say the goal of bringing this workshop here, or coming together to have a psychosocial support clinic, is recognizing that both autistic persons and even their own primary caregivers, and even persons with other developmental disabilities, whether it's cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, epilepsy, or intellectual disabilities, many of them are struggling with psychosocial issues. So it was very key that we hold this psychosocial wellness day as part of the Autism Awareness Day, because there's no health without mental health. We cannot talk about moving from struggling to thriving if you are also not taking care of your own mental wellness. Because yes, we will talk about therapy and all those other interventions, but then even when we intervene and provide occupational therapy or speech therapy, and the person still struggles with psychosocial issues, then they will not be able to thrive or get into gainful employment, or even earn a living or live independently within the community. So this clinic was very, very important. And this is a clinic that has brought together quite a number of stakeholders, including the county government of Nyeri, including other stakeholders, whether working within the community, National Council for Persons with Disabilities. And so coming together and pulling this psychosocial support clinic is just a beginning of many interventions that probably would happen on the ground, because as we discuss with stakeholders, we then recognize the issues that are underlying within the community, and caregivers also have an opportunity to share their experiences. And really, it's going to be very, very transformative in terms of ensuring that both autistic persons and their caregivers thrive, and caregivers recognize their role as a support system to autistic persons, other than even, because even sometimes they become the key, they become the people stigmatizing, their own children in some instances, not in all instances. But then when they are well, then it becomes easier for them even to access services, to take care of their own children, and to take care of their own mental wellness. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you so much for the wonderful work that you've done here. And we're so happy that here at GTN TV, you might not have known this, you might not have had the opportunity to be here physically, but this information is getting to you back at home. And so we really need to end the stigma that is associated with autism. Mr. Kenneth, so is the government putting up structures or facilities that are accommodative for people with autistic disorders? Because Madam Alice mentioned to us that it was a struggle for her to find a school for her son. So has the government stepped up and found ways to make their life much easier, give them equity, such that as that child who is not struggling with any disorder is going to school, they're also going to school and things like that?
Okay, thank you very much. One of the key challenges that most parents with children with autism and other developmental disorders face is placement of their children in learning institutions. We realize that for private institutions handling children with these disabilities, it's quite expensive. So there are really few public institutions that are handling persons with autism. The councils have realized that, and the government is doing a lot to increase the capacity of institutions that are handling persons with autism. For example, in Nyeri, we have quite a number of institutions that are able to handle that. We have Karatina Special School, which is a public school, also handling children with mental or intellectual disabilities. We have Adobe, we have Almano. What the government is doing, for example, right now, we have a project at Almano Special School, which is a public school. We are doing for them a dormitory. When this project is complete, the school will be able now to have another 30 learners who would otherwise be stuck at home and they do not have a place to go. We also have Karatina Special, where Kenya is doing a big project, which will accommodate another 100 runners. These are a big project that we also able to accommodate these persons within our community who otherwise are at home. So I can say yes, something is being done. Then also the other area is on training. The TSC is still employing more teachers who are being trained on special needs, so that they are able to handle these runs. Yes, I can say steps are there. Yes.
So you mentioned to us that sometimes a parent will be the one stigmatizing their child who is suffering from autism, maybe due to lack of knowledge or something. Maybe how would you encourage such a parent to go about this situation, which could be lifelong? What word of encouragement do you have to them so that you don't become the enemy to your own child while everybody else could be stigmatizing them?
I would say that in many instances, the caregiver does not stigmatize the child by choice, but then it's the existing deep-rooted cultural perspectives, that may be coming from those around them, that makes probably the family to stigmatize the child. But I would say that as a caregiver, looking out for all information, taking your child for assessment in the nearest health facility so that you get advice from the professionals. Of course, getting into psychosocial support groups, into groups within the space, so that you understand about the developmental disabilities, so that you understand about the condition of your child, so that you are able to provide support rather than of course, sit from a place of misinformation. So seeking the requisite information, interacting with other caregivers, seeking the advice from the professionals, and of course putting into practice what the professionals will advise, whether it's how to do therapy within the home settings. And I would say that as a caregiver also, you need to turn also a blind eye to the misconceptions and the myths that are existing within society, so that you forge forward to be able to support your child. Remember that each child has rights just like everyone else, and they are born with rights that we say are inalienable, rights that cannot be taken away. So the respect for the dignity of the person is very, very key. The respect for the dignity of the child, and recognizing that the child has rights just like everyone else. So what you, as a caregiver, you are a support mechanism, you provide support. So I would urge caregivers, of course, link up with others, seek information, and strive to break the barriers and create advocacy within your space and create awareness within your space, and as well as protect yourself and your child. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Kenneth, as we went up, because time is really not on our side, what are your recommendations, especially to the community, in that you do not have a child that is autistic, but this child is in your neighborhood? This is someone that you will interact with from day to day because they're around you. Or it is a child in school, the other children around them, they are okay, this child is not okay. What is your call to the community? What should we do as the community to make it favorable for them to coexist with us, make it favorable for them to interact with us, because these are people that are already struggling with interactions?
Thank you very much. For me, it's to advocate for inclusion. Also, let's break the barriers. These attitudes, the negative attitudes toward disability, and especially intellectual disabilities like autism. Also, let's also embrace them. Let's create awareness about the services that are there. The government is offering. We have the cash transfer program. We have the education support bursaries. We have tools of trade, those that have gone through vocational training. There are quite a number of areas that these people can benefit. At the same time, let's be quick to report any abuse that is happening within the communities. You may realize that persons with autism are prone to a lot of abuse, talk of sexual abuse, especially for girls. These are people who do not have that bargaining power. Also remember the boys are being misused within our communities there, casual laborers, they are underpaid. So For the communities, just embrace these people, include them in whatever they are doing. For the parents, expose your kids. Yeah, let them go to school, churches, barazas, any community gatherings, so that the communities around are able to know we have such a person within our area. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and many thanks for joining us. Many thanks for educating the people out there who are watching us and those that came here about autism. It is important that we create awareness, because that's the only way we stand a chance to change the narrative. That's why we are going to be wrapping it up. Remember that your health is your wealth. This is Medicamp, and my name is Mumbi Mavuti. Until next Tuesday, keep it GTN TV, the home of gifts and talents.